Alright, what's up everybody, Martin Movex Forever here, and today let's talk about some more of the data I collected about the motor linearization. So staring directly at this graph, you might remember that this graph is basically look very similar to the graph that we talked about in the last video, and basically it is, but it's just the data I collected on my own. And here are the data from which the graph is made of, and they just use some conditional graph for conditional formatting, and just looks like blood. Anyway, so let's go over it. But if you have any experience with any spreadsheets, you should know what this is. Right here, basically what I did is that I tested and produced these data with an encoder directly attached to a motor and some programming. For every single one of these values, I basically took 20 seconds to produce an interval and time interval of 20 seconds, and then I had an encoder count and then do some math and output an integer motor velocity RPM. So basically you can see that similar to the last video and corresponding to the graph, for my testing, the motor doesn't start moving until you give it a value around 15. So if you, in my case, if you give it anywhere below 15, the motor wouldn't move at all. There will be some slight torque in the motor, good for holding positions, but it just wouldn't move at all. And yes, so you can see that 15 is 0, and 16 approximately the motor is moving at 9 RPM, 17 is 11 RPM, and it just goes and goes and goes, and turn out both of them increase at the same time. However, this graph is kinda concave up. So this is just some practical data I got from my testing, and you can do the same thing with your robot. However, perhaps you don't want to do 20 seconds interval for every single motor voltage, because that would just take 20 or 30 minutes for your entire testing to be done, and that's gonna cost you a few batteries or something. Yeah. And also, just like I said in the last episode, if you're doing this on my own, perhaps this value is going to be around 20, because you're going to have more compression, decrease on your base, on the speed of the actual motor on the robot if the motor is under some sort of load. So the motor might start moving at around 30. However, we don't actually want that value to exceed 30, because theoretically, if the value exceeds, if you stall a motor with the given value of greater than around 30, say that you stall a motor with a value of 40, that's going to cause an overheat or a motor PDC trip over a certain amount of time. While theoretically, according to Mr. Pierman's calculation, if you give it somewhere under 30, if you give a motor any value under 30 and then you stall it, the motor is going to be safe, although it's going to basically drain your battery, but it's going to be safe. The PDC is not going to trip. So if you want some sort of reasonable holding position value, is nice to choose around 20 and 25. Those are pretty nice holding values. Like if you want to hold something in position, lock a motor against some sort of load, choose a value of 20 and 25 and stall it. It's safe. Just don't go over 30. Alright, so that's the graph. And why am I showing you this? So basically, after knowing exactly how your motor behaves, and after perhaps running some filter and making this graph, what we can do is say that, we know that at 9 RPM, the motor runs at 16 control value. So, if I just directly give the motor 15 or 16 or 17, it just outputs a value that's not exactly linear with the the motor voltage. So what if we say that we develop an algorithm, we say that, or some sort of regression or some sort of array or something, say that I want motor to spin at 39 RPM. And then this algorithm directly goes back and finds 28 and gives the motor 28, and then the output is 39. So basically, I give it 39, it outputs 39, and it's linear. That sounds pretty good, but how do we get that algorithm? So this episode, I'm just going to show you how what that algorithm looks like basically is the inverse function of this thing. And in the next episode, we're gonna put this thing into Robot C, and we're gonna see how that thing works in coding. So alright, so we need some sort of stuff. Say that then if we want to reverse it, we want to say that we want to get this column from this column. However, that's not always possible. Say that I can get 9. If I say I want the motor to spin at 9, I have 16. If I want the motor to spin at 11, I have 17. However, what if I want the motor to spin at 8? Then it's somewhere between 16 and 17. However, our motor graph doesn't have enough resolution to do that precise of a tweak, because right here is kind of steep. So what you have to do is either first develop a regression algorithm, but that's usually not very precise, or second, you can eyeball in some values, and that's what we're gonna look over here. So here, what we basically did, so here basically what we did is that this is the expected power output that I basically put in, and over here is my estimated power. You see, basically these two are pretty similar. However, you can see that here the expected motor RPM, these two are supposed to be the same thing. However, right here I don't have 1 to 8. Right here I have to put in 1 to 8 because I want to give it some sort of command, say that well, I don't want the algorithm to not work if I put in anywhere between 1 to 8, or if I put in anything that's not here. So here I just put 1 all the way to the max velocity, which is 113. However, I don't have all the corresponding stuff for that. So basically I'm eyeballing some values. Say that I know for sure that when I have 9, when the expected RPM is 9, I have 16. However, if say that I want the expected RPM to be 5, I don't exactly have that from my testing data, but I can say that it's around 16 or 15. So I'm just going to eyeball in 16. So that's how I develop this algorithm, like that. Eyeballing some values, and right here we have enough resolution, so we're just going to choose some of the values here and put them in. Alright. So that's basically, the graph this thing produces looks like this, and this is not a dot. This is just to show you what a dot is. So the graph we produce right here is kind of the inverse of this graph. So basically, if we mesh the two graphs together in Robot C, and this graph is kind of default, so like as long as you give a value to the motor, we have this graph. And if we add that before this and we mesh these two together, we should have a linearized motor control curve. And that sounds pretty awesome. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you how to put this stuff into Robot C and actually do it. However, I basically expect that if you have any experience, say that if you have any experience with any sort of array and stuff, or any sort of previous programming environment to see the data, you can go in there and obtain some data of your own, and then you basically just, you're going to know how to do it, but I'm still going to do a video to just walk you through on how to put this thing into Robot C using an array and doing all sorts of things, and finally linearizing the motor control value, or the motor control input, and the motor control output velocity. This can be very useful when you are using your joystick mapping. Say that you want to map your joystick against the motor. Say that well, basically if in any circumstance you want to control the motor velocity with the joystick, this can be useful because this can linearize the relationship between joystick displacement angle and your motor's velocity, and that's going to be pretty sweet, and it's going to really enhance your control, and it's going to feel different, and you're going to feel a lot more control of your motor. So in the next episode, I'm basically going to show you how to put this thing into Robot C. So that's it. MartinFX Forever here, and thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.